Good. Nice to meet you.
You too.
Thanks so much for joining our group and engaging, and we need that.
Yeah. I'm excited to see who who else joins and what kind of things we can talk about for moving something forward, even if it's a small thing. So
Yeah.
that'd be good.
Yeah. So I came very energized from KubeCon just because we achieved so much with the Deaf and Hard of Hearing working group, and um, I really feel we could do something similar. Um, and there is a lot of support from the Linux Foundation if we do stuff, if we tell them how to be more accessible, if we so one thing actually that I ran into someone who uh, he wasn't blind, but very like he had a guide, so he I don't know, near blind, I don't know how to say it, and so I of course invited him right away. And one thing that he told me is that the program, the tool they use is that it's not accessible at all. It does not work with screen readers. And I
Which
was like, hmm?
which program?
So the program, the conference program, it's published on a tool called SCET,
Yeah, yes. Okay.
and
Got you.
that is not accessible. So they basically use a tool, a third-party tool, and um, that is not accessible. And so I did mention that to the Linux Foundation events team, and they were very surprised. And so one of the things that I told them is like, don't go and get another tool, go and make pressure for them to fix it because the Linux Foundation is such a big events client that I'm sure they would hate to lose them. And so they do have some leverage to kind of force them to make that accessible. So those are kind of things that we can do, right? Like if we're teaming up with the Linux Foundation, because it's just not us, it's a bigger organization behind it.
Yeah, I haven't used SCED in quite a while, but I recall from using it that it was um, some workarounds were certainly necessary that slowed down my ability to do the things I needed to do in the tool. And so I used it to the extent I needed to and kind of extracted what I needed from the tool in terms of the schedule. And, I had to sign up, I believe, for particular sessions so that I could be logged as an attendee. And so I did that. And then everything else I did outside of the tool. So,
Mhm. Yeah. And so Harsh just
Harsh,
joined.
hi.
Hello. And if you're speaking, we cannot hear you.
Yeah, hi
Oh,
Catherine.
hi, how are you?
Yeah, I'm fine. How are you?
Good,
Very
thanks.
good. Yeah, so we were just talking about KubeCon. Let's see if I think Stefan wanted to try. Let me see. I know Alex always had like a little bit of trouble with his schedule.
Yeah.
But yeah, so what Harsh oh you provided some feedback, right? Like or Ivan.
Yeah,
Because
we
Harsh
chatted a little bit in the Slack thread.
Yeah,
Yeah, so nice to meet you. Sort of in uh, it's non-asynchronous, not in Slack. So
great. Stefan, hello.
Hello.
hey there.
Hello. Nice, Ivan.
So Stefan did the great panel that we're looking forward to get the recording to very soon.
Yes.
Yes, in few days, I received an email from the CNCF that the video will be released before end of this week.
Oh, great.
Great. Yeah. So I think these are the people who said that they would come. So I think I would just get started. So first of all, Ivan, welcome. I know you did a little intro on Slack, but why don't we do like a little round like now, not async, like synced. So
Sure, I'll go ahead and start. So nice to meet you all, and whoever's watching the video one-sided in the future, I guess. My name is Ivan. I've been completely blind forever as a result of a condition at birth, and so that's my perspective as a visually impaired IT person. I've worked as an SRE, as a Go developer, and in kind of in the space of cloud native and Kubernetes and CNCF adjacent things for a while. So as my technical background, I like playing music and trying to find new, interesting, fun things to learn, perspectives from other people. Like to laugh, like to help people to laugh. So I'll stop there. But it's nice meeting you all. I happen to live in Colorado in the United States, where spring is sort of trying to figure out how to come here for weather, and we're excited about that. So,
spring is always
Hello.
nice. I love that.
yes.
Yeah, hello everyone. Harsh here from Indore, India. So I am also in IT. So I started my career in data analytics, but I acquired my vision loss in later in my life. So after that, I was moved into non-technical role, and earlier I was working with the diversity and inclusion team. And from last 3 years, I'm part of the partnership and operations work, and I'm legally blind.
Stefan, do you want to?
Yes, I can continue. So, Stefan, I'm living in Luxembourg in Europe. So spring is there in that side of the world. And I'm CNCF ambassador for now 2 years. I'm dedicated to contribute to the CNCF project as much as I can technically, but only with PR and such contribution. I contribute to the CNCF glossary project for the translation in French. And now I was looking for some another project that is not coding contribution, that non-coding contribution, and I found it last year around November, and I joined this blind and visually impaired initiative in the tag contributor strategy. From on my side, I'm blind from my left eyes, and the right is very low, very low. I can see, I can move myself, but I need to be very close to read such things or recognize people.
Yeah, and I'm Catherine. I started, so I started the Deaf and Hard of Hearing Working Group a year and a half ago, and that has been such a success that we wanted to expand that effort a little bit. And so this is a group that, at least in the Slack channel, we started, last year. I think like
Yeah, I think
Stefan.
in November, December, yeah.
Yeah, so it's been a little slow. We've had people like come and then, but I feel like we've never had a critical mass, and then people, because nothing really happened, and kind of fizzled out a little bit. So I would love to kind of, I hope, because that we've seen, like, I mean, like Stefan and Harsh are definitely regularly at the meeting, and Ivan, you were very active on Slack. So I have, so I think we can get started and start doing something. That gives me a little hope, because I think it is really good what we've achieved with the Deaf and Hard of Hearing. There's no reason we couldn't do that with this group. We also have a BIPOC group, which stands for Black, Indigenous, and People of Color. And then also right after KubeCon, someone reached out. They wanted to do a LGBTQ plus Slack channel, so that's kind of going and people are gathering. And then someone reached out. That was something a little bit unexpected, which made me happy, is stuttering and speech diversity. And so we're going to be announcing that soon. There is actually an ally from the Deaf and Hard of Hearing Working Group, Aurélie Vache, and she stutters and is a frequent public speaker. So I think specifically for that group, it will be very exciting to see that people don't have to be afraid and go on stage, and that it really works. And so I think she will be a big inspiration for people who, yeah, because there is a stigma associated with it. So I think, yeah, I'm excited about that group. I did not kind of see that coming. So sometimes it's great that people come and ask for, could we create a group for this or that? So yeah, so I'm seeing momentum in the diversity and inclusion efforts in the CNCF despite everything else that's going on. So yeah, I'm a big believer that community-driven change is possible. So hoping we can do that.
We
And
Even I would like to check with you. So, have you been into coding from starting of your career itself, or it's you diverted into coding later in?
are you
So
talking to me or to whom?
Yeah, Ivan,
Oh, Ivan. Okay, yeah.
Ivan,
yeah,
yeah.
so I started out as at the time we called a systems administrator, uh, and running various Unix systems and so on. And so I have always coded from that sense,
Oh, okay,
as a script writer or writing tools in Perl and Shell and that sort of thing. And I switched to a more traditional quote unquote software developer role, maybe sometime in 2020, 2021,
okay.
as a Go developer. So I would say that I've been coding
As a which
always,
developer? Sorry, as a which
uh,
developer?
as a software developer in Go.
Okay, so
Yeah.
Go. Okay.
Yeah.
So all these technologies are accessible, like Go. You mentioned Kubernetes, I think.
Yeah, I would say so. So I've always used a screen reader with speech. I do read Braille, but
Mm,
I've never coupled Braille with computer and screen reading software. I've never been a very fast Braille reader, and I can
mm,
function very quickly listening to synthesized speech. So I've
okay.
always used that. So I'm currently using a Mac. I switched to using a Mac maybe
Okay.
2010, 2010. Um, Previously to
No,
that,
so it's been around 14, 15 years now.
yeah. Before that, I used Windows for the same kind of work. So I'm
Mm,
just not as familiar with it these days, having been on a
mm,
Mac for a while. But yeah, um, there's accessibility workarounds, as you all know, in lots of facets of our life. For example, I just
right.
happened to be on another gentleman's podcast who also happens to be blind, and he wanted to talk about aspects of blindness and challenges in tech. And so we recorded a two-part series in his podcast and talked through a lot of these sort of facets. So
Yeah,
uh,
because actually when I also started my career, so I was in data analytics and mostly in the reporting and visualization, data visualization stuff. So
mhm.
that involves lot of drag and drop functionality and all those things, right? So I tried uh, accessing with a screen reader and it was not accessible to me. So and I was not good in the coding part, so it was becoming difficult for me to transition or find a new role. So then I got an opportunity to move into non-technical, and now from quite some time I'm also trying to find some another opportunity or finding some another good role where I can see my career growth. That's
Yeah,
why I checked with you that about those tools and
yeah, I mean, I'd be happy to talk to you anytime. And I'm not saying it can't be here, but I don't know what else we might want to cover. on this meeting, so I don't
Yeah.
want to monopolize too much with this conversation, but
Right, right,
I'm
yeah.
always open to have conversations like this with folks, and I think it would be great for you to find something that is adjacent enough to the skills that you know and the perspective that you have today that maybe is in the realm of being more accessible. And I can't
Yeah,
speak to data engineering personally. I have a few coworkers who are oh, hey Alex. I have a few
yeah,
coworkers who are very talented in data engineering, and I could talk to them as well. And maybe there's non-drag and drop methods for you to be able to participate in your original
yeah.
field. But sure, I'd love to talk more about.
Sure, we'll catch up sometime then.
Mhm.
I'm so excited that Alex made it. Welcome.
Yeah, hi, hello, Alex.
Good morning,
Hey there, good to meet you.
good morning, afternoon, wherever all of you are at.
Yes. Morning.
I'm in Germany right now, so it's late afternoon.
Yes.
I just got
Um,
back from getting coffee, so trying to wake up after being up till 1 a.m.
oh, that was a late one.
Yeah.
So yeah, we were doing a little intros, and that's kind of where we were. I know you missed everyone else's intro, and I know you introduced yourself already async, but Alex, would you like to kind of introduce yourself now that we're all on a call?
Sure, my name is Alex. I'm from here in the Plano, Texas, right outside Dallas, and I work in site reliability engineering DevOps. Don't have any vision at this point. Been blind about the last 8 years.
Okay, well, welcome. So I think since the group is still kind of forming and getting into a flow, um, we don't really have like a strict agenda. But one thing that I was mentioning before you joined, Alex, is that we achieved quite a bit with the deaf and hard of hearing. And we've seen a lot of momentum at KubeCon, this last KubeCon. And so it would be great to kind of try to do something similar or whatever with your priorities, right, for this group. One thing that is coming up now, well, first of all, like these diversity groups have basically three buckets, I also call them, like three focus areas. One is, and I mentioned that before, right? Like advocacy, educating the community about um, well, basically, what I prefer phrasing it like empowering allies to be effective allies, right? And then um, the other one is visibility, ensuring that people are on stage and actively participating uh, in the discussion. And then the third bucket, which is really important as well, like building a supportive network, right? Connecting people with each other and kind of like having someone like now, Ivan was talking to Harsh, and then maybe like giving advice, like that's like really valuable, like connecting to people, other people in the tech community. So KubeCon is coming up. Well, I know it just ended, but the CFP will close very soon in 5 weeks for North America, which seems crazy because we just came back from KubeCon. And we have two SREs. So do you work with Kubernetes, Alex and Ivan?
All day, every day.
Great.
I don't currently. I'm doing some other sort of DevOps stuff
Uh-huh.
with a different team for the moment in my this point in my career. But I spent a lot of years building and running and upgrading and such Kubernetes clusters and helping customers. And then my Go software dev was also in that same space, writing stuff that runs inside Kubernetes.
Great. So you are familiar. It's because I'm asking because like from the deaf and hard of hearing, it kind of a community. It attracted a lot of people who are not necessarily familiar with those technologies.
Yeah.
So I would love to. It would be great if you could submit technical talks And again, Alex, I know you mentioned funding. There is funding. Like if your talk gets accepted, you can apply for speaker funding. And so especially if you've never applied before, it's much easier to get it. So I think that is a great opportunity. Yeah, just like move forward with the visibility part, like having one or two of you on stage would be great. We had 7 deaf speakers at the last KubeCon.
That's amazing. Definitely would want to attend the event as an attendee for a couple years so I can try to kind of figure out how the event works a little more before
Mhm.
I offer to speak. Not to mention I'm extremely busy and just frankly don't have the time to prepare a talk this year, but
Mhm.
definitely in the future, that'd be great.
Okay. And then and Ivan, you?
I was just looking to see when it was this year. I think it's going to conflict with a family reunion that I have in like early November, but
Yeah,
uh,
November 10 to 13.
yeah, yeah. So, but I want to, I'm curious about this, and if there's even if I'm not part of the speaking circuit for this year in North America anyway, if there's ways that I could help. I know we need someone else who would be able and willing to go speak. Um, so I'm curious about this, and even though I don't believe it's going to work for me to attend at all, I'm interested in um, what kind of talks might land well, and your perspective, Catherine, in terms of things you've heard from the deaf and hard of hearing group and other places about what seeing, in this case, a visually impaired speaker sort of does for folks. And then kind of adjacent to that, while even though we're talking about KubeCon, are there other similar venues of sorts, maybe something that's virtual or other things that we can all participate in that while it might not be the sort of splash of KubeCon, if you will,
Mhm.
still valuable from that. I'm going to call it exposure or folks being out in the wild, doing a thing, communicating, et cetera, et cetera.
Mhm. Topics depend, like what your area is. So, I mean, if you look at the submissions form, you will see different tracks, right? There's platform engineering, security. So it depends on what your area of expertise is. And then generally what I do is kind of look at because my company submits a lot of talks and I work on the marketing side. So we kind of look at what has been submitted before, what are the tracks that are hot. I did that this morning. And so basically platform engineering had the most talks in general. Um, for the deaf and hard of hearing, we had one panel which was more about allyship, so that's not a tech talk. Um, but those type of talks get only accepted like maybe one talk max. So because it's a tech conference, so we do have one of our CNCF ambassadors. She's the first deaf ambassador, and she has teamed up with an Argo maintainer, and she's really passionate about Argo, and so they've been talk. I think she did 2 talks about one at ArgoCon and the other one I don't remember. Um, so it really depends on your expertise. We do also or one of the things that I like to do is teaming up people with more experienced speakers as well. So Alex, I don't know if that might change your mind for Atlanta. If not, never mind. So I just started a mentorship program. So I trying to recruit mentors right now and for anything, right? Like it could be contributing code and so on. But one of the options was like teaming up to give a conference talk. So that also helps because you don't have to prepare the whole thing on your own. So I don't know if that might be an option because a lot of people, well, we promoted a little bit, not like too much yet, but we have 37 people who signed up. So I haven't looked at exactly what or how they want to participate, but that could be an option as well, for talks if that is a new kind of experience at KubeCon, presenting, preparing a talk, and so on.
I think I spent probably 3 or 4 years going to the different word camps for WordPress before I gave my first talk. And that just kind of helps you give a feel of the event. And the first time I spoke at WordCamp, I think it was a couple years ago. And that was the first time I've ever done anything public speaking wise. So still trying to find myself there, but I tend to stay on the sidelines technically, really. The technical coding aspect is where I'm most comfortable. And
Yeah.
I didn't know it was in Atlanta though. So my company actually has an office based in Atlanta. So I'm going to see if I can make the argument to have most of our team go, because I mean, most of us are local there anyway, with the
Mhm.
exception of me and a couple others.
Atlanta has a great Kubernetes meetup, I guess I'm going to call it, that I've watched on YouTube after interacting a lot with the customer, delivering a huge pile of like 61 plus hours of Kube training with them online. And I found that group for them to also get involved in and started watching them myself. And they're a nice bunch of folks, and the talks there are all across all sorts of different topics. And so that might be interesting just for you to consume and get to know. And if you want to go participate, or if you want to speak, or whatever level you're interested in. But if you haven't encountered those folks before, they're pretty awesome.
Because I mean, there's all kinds of meetups out there. There's probably some locally in Dallas, but
Mhm.
half the problem goes back to is, there's all these events happening kind of on their own. Yeah, Meetup kind of used to be the place as the central database to find all these, but over time, I don't know, what's the right word? These events get so compartmentalized at times, it's hard to even know what happens these days. But yeah, that's a good point. I'll look into the Atlanta meetup, because if people are telling me where to look, then that solves that problem.
Yeah, and just a note, I do have to hop in 4 minutes because I do have a conflict with that. But yeah, so I think first of all, not everyone wants to speak, so just so that's totally fine as well. There are other ways to participate. I think you asked Ivan why it's important, or like to have like people on stage who
Kind of
might be.
what you've seen from the perspective of, oh, I saw this, individual with a disability speak, and it opened my eyes or my perspective to such and such and such, or made me
Yeah.
feel such and such a way, or what? Yeah.
Well, I always say accessibility is an abstract concept until you met someone who needs it. And there are a bunch of people who have never ever met someone who's blind or deaf or needed any real accessibility. And so it's just a checkbox before that. Like people know it's important, but it's a check, it doesn't feel tangible. And once you've met someone, you put a face on accessibility, and that changes their perception. I would claim for life because it's a person. You say, oh, I had a conversation. This person is funny, and like I don't know, it just gets a different. I do think it changes it, and I've seen like my team met some of the deaf folks, and they were like, oh my God, I want to learn ASL, and they really want it, and they're like, how can I become an ally? And they were so excited. So it's like it's if we want the community to help advocate, we need to first make those personal connections and change like and because those relationships are key, and then tell them what they can do, right? Like a lot of people once they meet uh folks and want to help, they just don't know how, right? And like advocate, making sure one of the things that we say, let's like with the deaf and hard of hearing, like, okay, now you go to an event and there's no captions, call it out. You know, people may think like, oh, but there are no deaf people here. And it's like, well, guess why there are no deaf people here, right? So all these things is like, how can we recruit more allies and empower them to spread the message, or kind of like advocate for accessibility, because like I always say that again, like minorities are minorities by definition, right? And it's so easy to overlook their voices, maybe even ignore them. And so if with allies we can build a majority, and then it's much more difficult, right? And then you can kind of really kind of advocate for yeah, more inclusive and more accessible, start with the community and then invite like companies and so on. It's like if you have the momentum,
Yeah,
but
that's helpful to
tell them.
hear some of that, because rather than just assume from my own lens of the things I know about why it can be useful, it's and we can easily take for granted the things that we know, right? As people who have been blind or are blind currently, we adapt to our lives, and like the SCED example and working around that app, right? At the time I was trying to participate in KubeCon, and so I didn't think about going and talking to the folks about that, because while I do that a lot in my life, somewhat constantly, communicate about inaccessibility, my goal at that moment was to get through KubeCon successfully. So I know you have a hard stop, and so I had one more question that we might not have time for, but I was curious about. I asked about other events, not necessarily KubeCon, because in my past working in Kube-related things, I did a ton of webinars and various online events where I spoke about all sorts of technical topics. And sometimes they were live, sometimes they were pre-recorded. But I wonder if there's an opportunity for that as a useful tool, and maybe even as a gateway for folks who are exploring speaking, but don't want to maybe tackle the whole package of flying to a place, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, and going through the conference, but still would want to contribute. So we don't have to talk about that now if you have to run, but maybe if we could do it async and Slack, that would be
Yeah,
great.
so Stefan shared a few like a link that there are like virtual events, but yeah, let's continue that conversation offline. I'll let you and talk about the rest, but yeah, I'll hop now.
Okay.
But yeah, let's talk about how we can make you more of a presence within the community so we can find more allies, and you don't have to tackle things alone and just say like, well, it's just hard and that's just the way it is. It's like not, we should stop accepting it and kind of try to fix it. Okay.
All right, yeah.
Well, really, really was a pleasure to talk to you, Alex and Ivan, like on a call. And so I will talk to you on Slack. And thank you. Bye-bye.
Great.
Absolutely.
Sounds good.
Thanks.
Thanks.
So if you have time to continue the discussion, I just share a link on the chat with the virtual event that the CNCF manage for projects. So usually not all projects have their own days at the KubeCon before they got some virtual events. Some of them are localized in Europe or US, but as is virtualized, it depends of the time zone difference. It's feasible to get even on Europe for you or US, etc. So I shared the link on the chat right now.
Okay,
The two next
great.
one are GitOpsCon in end of May, I guess, and another one is StreamZCon. So these are dedicated to a project, and there are CFPs as well as usual to answer, to suggest a talk there. And definitely, I did like that before going to public speaking. I did some virtual event as you did, Ivan. And now it's more comfortable for me to be on stage. So I'm
I
doing
think it can be
more.
helpful from a variety of
Yes,
angles, right? One of them is if in general, if anyone is unsure about speaking, it can
yes,
take a lot of factors off the table to get
yes,
started. Even for me, I don't feel as concerned about public speaking these days because I've done a good amount of it, but there's always going to be a difference for me in the amount that I can produce, the good that I can do, the folks that I can reach, et cetera, by doing something that isn't necessarily in person. I also realize that a presence in person is different for people. So I understand the pros and cons for each. That sometimes having a person stand in front of you on stage and real in the flesh, as it were, is different and meaningful. But I also think about the perspective of KubeCon. Not everybody goes to the talks. Personally, when I've gone to KubeCon subsequently after the first time I attended, I hardly went to any talks because I could watch them all online. And so
yes.
I was all about who can I speak to in person that I don't normally have a chance to talk to because we're all in a shared location. Um, anyway, anyhow, I could see this being useful, and thanks for sharing that CNCF link of events. I'm curious how
Thanks.
you all feel, whoever wants to speak up about personally, how do you feel about the value of this kind of sort of outreach, and helping to illustrate what accessibility looks like for us and what it means and what kind of things we might need, et cetera, in terms of the things that we've been talking about here for the last 15 or so minutes, is separate from whether that means you have to speak or anything. Just how do you feel about the concept of these kind of reach outs and engagements? Do you feel like they're valuable? Do you have experience with them, et cetera?
Okay, so the question is quite wide, so I will try to answer quickly. So I see how Catherine did with the other groups. So often hard-hearing people. I see the difference because I managed to attend KubeCon for 3 years now after the COVID lockdown. I managed to meet more people in person, and then KubeCon was a great things to meet people, and especially don't to go to the conference, but speak to people and network with people and speak in person, exactly as you shared, Ivan. So, and I see how the difference were before this initiative grows and how the KubeCon are with this initiative and alliance that works around this initiative for deaf and hearing people is very completely different. So now there you have subtitling and live signing on keynotes. I see some initiative as well for the local meetups to get live subtitling during the talk. So if we can manage to have such improvement in how the CNCF project, or not only the conferences, but as well the project, could be more inclusive for every other groups, like blind and visually impaired, it would be great. I think to get more people for different that have different perspective, and it could be valuable for all the CNCF and even Linux Foundation, because it's not only linked to Cloud Native, it can be as well, because CNCF is a group from Linux Foundation. Linux Foundation is broader than CNCF. So one moment of time, I hope that this initiative grows and be more visible at Linux Foundation level. I know that other projects like with us in OpenSSF, so for the security, has as well some initiative for inclusion. So probably those small initiatives can interconnect each other through the Linux Foundation, I guess. But start small for now for us. And I started to promote and advocate open source before 2000. So I know how to manage community and how to get stuff done. So if we have some, for instance, some pages to write, I can support people that don't know how to use GitHub. I did it for the glossary project. The glossary project is as well on GitHub, and I got some people that don't know how to use GitHub to help us on translating pages. Here for blind visually impaired, I don't know if you already know, but in the tag contributor strategy, there are some web pages dedicated to accessibility. And for now, only deaf and hard of hearing people initiative are there. So we can, with that group, create similar pages dedicated for our group, and then explain how Allies can help us, how to contribute to the project, or how to help the conference organizer to include more people, etc. So I'm very involved in this project since the beginning. Catherine exposed the project in November, and I did some interview with Alex and some other people that were who were not here in the meeting, and even if I'm not fully blind, so I can manage to see and move myself, but very difficult. But I can attend KubeCon myself, etc. So I know it could be difficult for you to do so by your own. So it's why I try during this interview as well to gather those information to share to others, and especially as well to the CNCF organizer, to include more blind visually impaired people in the conference.
Yeah, I'm curious if Alex and other folks have also anything to say on the topic of sort of helping accessibility be more than a checkbox. And
no, for me, it's something I completely knew because I was focusing starting as a solution architect and more focused on technology. 10 years ago, I discovered that I prefer to work with people than only technology. So I move more on the coaching people to work better together, helping companies that are most of the time siloed between dev, infrastructure, team, etc., to work better together around technologies. And I think with my experience, I can manage to be involved in such projects to help others to be more included at the CNCF level, because I'm concerned by the CNCF as ambassador, but for the community, broader community, it's very interesting to see more people involved in open source projects. As I said, I'm involved in the open source world for more than 30 years now, so I'm very concerned by that as well.
Well, here's how it kind of works for me. 85% goes to my full-time job because that's what 80% goes to my full-time job because that's what pays the bills. 10% goes to my contract work because that supplements the bills. 5% goes to advocacy because that's, just what I do. I've over the years seen and been involved with a lot of projects, and unfortunately, accessibility is still a checkbox in most places. I contributed to WordPress. the open source content management system for over 9 years, and the same attitude still prevailed today.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, if we're going to open this pull request, like I literally just a couple days ago, somebody opened a pull request and said, sorry, this doesn't work with the keyboard. I'm like, why are we even discussing it then? And I mean, I got so tired of seeing the constant ableism in WordPress that I left the project. Just couldn't deal with it anymore. I mean, there is a difference between not knowing and not caring. People in the WordPress community unfortunately don't care. And you can you can even go as far like I've done in the past. I always try to avoid this, but when you get constant offenders that always write in their pull request, hey, this doesn't work with the keyboard, this is for mouse users only, you got to call it out. And I've called a few people and out on Twitter, I mean, a big public audience, and we'll have the big, oh, you shouldn't do that, you should be more inclusive. And then it just goes away. They keep doing what they're doing, and I keep on fighting. So, you know, I've seen very, 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 very few efforts like this succeed. That's why I generally don't join these types of efforts. But this one seems to actually have promise. I mean, I'll definitely give the group that. This was actually, I was told about this from a mutual friend of mine who doesn't really even work in technology anymore. So the fact that you were able to get that kind of reach is very impressive because I didn't know about it. From all the stuff in the past about the Linux Foundation, I just thought this was one giant ableist project that would never include people with disabilities. So the fact that things are really turning around, gives me a lot of hope because, like I've said, I've been involved in so many of these projects that fail from lack of support, lack of people having time. Yep, I'm guilty of that here. And yeah, that's kind of my thought process.
And for me, it's like very new to me because actually here in India, all these conferences usually happens in big cities, and where my native is actually I don't travel as because I am not that much comfortable in traveling. So that's why like I struggle to go to this conference. And about this technology side also because I have been acquired my disability later, and so I'm still struggling to find some good opportunity where I can see growth in my career. So I have gone through accessibility testing training and all from, if you would have heard, there is a organization called that is a non-profit organization in US, a Blind Institute of Technology.
Mm.
So last year I have taken a training from there as well. So I'm still trying to find something in those technologies so that I can see myself grow in that, and I can learn more, grab more skills in this technology field.
Sure. Okay. Yeah. Great. Well, thank you all for that. And I'll throw a few things out kind of quickly here that in the past, when I've gone to conferences, and I've not spoke at conferences like KubeCon. I've spoke at other more kind of community meetup type events and done a lot of online stuff. But when I went to, for example, KubeCon or LISA, the large systems administration conference, which I think is not a thing any longer, and so on, I typically would bring someone from my life. I would bring a resource and I would use that person as a guide. And I personally don't feel that I'm, by my own definition, the best traveler. I have, uh, I want to just participate in all the things, and navigation, even in a simple setup, can be challenging and detract from the experience of being at the conference in this case. So that's why I choose to have a sighted guide that is a person in my life who's willing to do this with me. And what I've also done at a lot of these conferences is I've written to the conference and I've asked if I could have a free attendee ticket for this guide, and that it's purely someone who is facilitating me as a visually impaired attendee. And I explained to them a little bit about, how that is an advantage and how it helps me participate on a more level playing field. And I've never been turned down thus far for that. And so that can be another useful tool for folks who are thinking about wanting to participate on some level in bigger conferences and are concerned, understandably, about the travel. So that's, to me, makes a huge difference in attending. As far as the advocacy stuff goes, for me, similar to what Alex described, I've always been advocating on some level. Anything from going and speaking at elementary schools with teachers that I know and so on, and talking to kids and demonstrating tools and abilities and so on and so forth, to doing that on for more adult audiences as well. Like I mentioned a podcast earlier that I was on where we happened to speak about blind issues and relating to technology and accessibility and so on and so forth. So I also believe that this is important, and similar to Alex, I try to find the places where I think we can make the most difference. And so that's what I'd be continued to be interested in, having discussions offline and these meetings and so on about where do we think we could get the most bang for our buck, quote unquote. Where will our effort make the most difference, or be able to go the farthest, so that we can be sort of efficient with our time and our energy, because none of this is for free, right? The effort that it takes to do these things is not zero. So I still think it's important to do, but I also recognize and agree and feel myself that it's a considerable effort to be eloquent and well-spoken and communicate about these things in a way that matters, and to be a good ambassador. I have run into a lot of blind folks in my past who maybe are not the best ambassadors, and maybe that's the only blind person that a sighted individual is ever going to see. And now that's the sort of lasting image that they have of what a blind person is like. And of course, that's not how it works, just like any other human that represents a category of humans is not representative of somebody else in that same category. But sometimes people think that way, or they see a blind person in a movie and they think, this is what blind people are like, right? So we have to be good ambassadors as well. And that takes effort to sort of put that face on. So I'll stop there, but I'm happy to have met you all, and I'd love to have more combos in Slack or here about what we think we should start with. And I think it can be small, whether we talk more about the Slack accessibility document or whatever it is. I think getting some stuff out there, even if it's small, is a good start. And so, yeah, that's it for me.
Oh, great. Yeah, definitely everyone has a job, and we need to find the right time to contribute here. And then asynchronous work with Slack is great, because we can manage to get some topics to work together on.
Yeah.
Like the web page on tag strategy, contributor strategy. I will share the link on Slack about what Div and hard hearing people did to get an insight about what they have right now. So it's not a huge amount of information. So it's something we can start with as well, and put the documents we are already working on for the Slack best practice, and to put it on these pages as well, to share to everyone how to use Slack, etc.
Yeah, that sounds good. Yeah, that sounds good. And I know we're basically at time here too, so um, I'm going to have to run myself here in a second, but glad to have met you all and get to know you a little bit and understand where everybody is coming from and what they're interested in doing and what our realistic constraints are and all of that stuff. So hopefully we can do some good stuff here in the future in
Yes.
this group.
Yes. Looking
Yep.
forward for contributing
Yeah.
together. Yes. So have a nice one. So evening or end of morning, and see you next time on this monthly meeting or asynchronously on Slack. And
All right.
I will share the link on Slack right away after the meeting about the web pages.
Yeah. It sounded like somebody else maybe wanted to say something before we close.
And I also feel the same, that nice meeting to you all and looking forward to collaborate together in future.
All right, great. Well, thanks everybody. We'll see y'all
Yep.
next
See
time.
you.
Yeah.
Take care.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.